Multilinguistics.
Welcome back, Florida Linguistics Podcast listeners. This is the podcast for Sunday, December 20th, 2009. My name is Lee Ballard, linguistics grad student at the University of Florida. I'm here today with my friend Jaffer Sharief. Hello, Jaffer.
Hello, everyone.
Jaffer speaks many languages, and we will be talking today about his perspectives on language growing up in a multilingual country. So we can get started off by asking what your background is. Could you tell us some about what it was like growing up in India and what part of India you come from?
I was born and brought up in Bangalore. Bangalore is a city south in India, and it's, I think, more commonly known for its greenery and nowadays for the technology. It's well known to be the Silicon Hub of India.
Alright, so it's very famous for software and computers and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So, on the language, what languages were you surrounded with growing up, and what languages do you speak?
Well, I was surrounded with a lot of languages, and some of them being Urdu, which is my mother tongue, and the native language Kannada, which is spoken in my state of Karnataka. And there are other languages which I came across as I grew up and was interacting with a lot of friends who spoke Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Bengali, and English at school. Also the Bollywood movies and Hindi, which is the national language.
Bollywood being the national cinema of India, and the word coming from a mixture between Bombay, which is now the city of Mumbai, but it used to be called Bombay, mixing Bombay with Hollywood and getting Bollywood. Which languages of those that you mentioned earlier do you speak?
I speak Urdu, which is my mother tongue, English, Hindi, Kannada, which is the native language in my state of Karnataka, and Sanskrit, which I learned for a couple of years, and a little bit of German.
How did you learn all those languages, though? I mean, I'm from a monolingual background. I only speak English as my native language, and the other languages I had to learn along the way by surrounding myself with people and materials. But you were surrounded by all these languages just by being alive. So how did you how did you keep them all apart? Was it really hard at first? Did you ever mix them together? What's it like?
Yeah, when you're born in a place as multicultural as India, it's not difficult for you to be surrounded by people who speak different languages, who have different ethnicity, and who obviously come from different places. When I grew up, I was having friends who spoke Tamil, who spoke Kannada, who spoke Malayalam or Telugu, or people who are speakers of Hindi. And of course, my education was in English, and English being the very widely spoken language in India, I just happened to learn all these languages as and when I grew up.
So I know from one of our previous conversations that you are a non-Hindu. You grew up as a Muslim in a Muslim family, but also that you spent a long time growing up learning Sanskrit. And that's something that I always associated with Hinduism, especially really religious Hindus who might learn to chant the scripture or would
Yeah,
learn.
that's true.
So how is it possible that you came to learn Sanskrit, or how did you decide?
Well, when I had so many friends who were of a different religious background, I was always curious to know about what is it that is prescribed in their sacred texts and what is the reason for their different lifestyles. I was curious to learn more about Hinduism in general and the various ideologies that it has. And since Sanskrit encodes all these ideologies and views, it's a natural decision that I made.
Yeah. Now, what writing system does Sanskrit use? Is that the same as some of the languages you speak already?
No, Sanskrit is significantly different than some of the Dravidian languages which I mentioned, such as Kannada, Telugu, or Tamil, or Malayalam. It has its own script, which is Devanagari. It's also a distinct language.
Yeah. So our listeners may not be completely familiar with the split in India. So the languages in southern India, many of them are Dravidian. That's the language family, and those would be languages like Tamil and Kannada. And then you have Indo-European languages. This is the Indo part of the Indo-European. And those are languages like Sanskrit, but ones that are spoken nowadays like Urdu and Hindi and Bengali, right?
Yeah, yeah. Some of these languages are derived from Sanskrit, while the Dravidian languages have their own history, and they have a distinct script of its own. The literature in some of the Dravidian languages dates as back as some of the literature in Sanskrit.
Okay. And what are some of the writing systems in India apart from the Devanagari used to write Sanskrit?
Yeah, there are lots of different languages such as Gujarati, Marathi, Punjabi, Kannada, Urdu, and all these languages have a different script, and they have a different writing system. If you look at Punjabi, for example, the script and the language structure is significantly different than Sanskrit or Hindi, which happens to be derived from Sanskrit.
Right. So a different writing system for
yes.
each individual language.
Yeah.
I see. Now, I also wanted to ask what the role of English was, because English is being used nowadays in India as a lingua franca to bridge the gap between people who don't speak the same local language.
Yeah.
So what was it like learning English in India? Did you have to work at it at all? Was it really, really hard? What's it like?
Yeah, it was a significant task when I started using or learning English, but it's more and more natural nowadays and common to see people learning English throughout their education system. It was a little difficult for me to begin with, but I see that there is a lot of influence and a lot of bringing together of people because they speak English. It's noticeable that Hindi is being replaced by English as the next national language. It's doing a great job of bridging the barriers between different people who don't speak the same language anymore.
Right. Maybe some of that has to do with the fact that it's more of a neutral language. So, whereas Hindi has a homeland in India itself, in the northern part of India, you have Hindi speakers. English comes from a faraway place.
Yeah,
and so
it has a great influence of its own on the people. It was introduced by the British when they came to India.
Yeah. All right. Now, your English is really great, and I have no difficulty understanding it. But I was wondering if the opposite is sometimes true. Do you ever have difficulty understanding Americans?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I take it as a compliment, and I don't think my English is as good as it should be, but I'm learning, and that's what makes it so interesting, that every now and then when you travel across different countries and different regions, you come across people who speak the same language in different ways. To mention, I happened to be in New York this summer. I came across a different set of people who had a different accent, a different way of going about expressing their ideas in English, which I found is quite different from the southern accent and the people who I interacted in South here in Florida. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, the New York accent is definitely one of the classical accents that we think of when we think of our regional accents in this country, as well as southern accent. Have you been exposed to the southern accent in Florida, which some people refer to as Florida cracker, or maybe some of the accents that are spoken by African Americans? One of the main ones is called African American Vernacular English, which sometimes is called Ebonics. Have you had any experiences with those? Are they easy to understand, very different?
Yeah, when I moved far from the university and the campus, I came across a couple of certain situations where I interacted with these people. It's a distinct way of...
it's a variety of English way of speaking.
Yeah, it's a different way of speaking English. And I find it interesting how English has been evolving and how it has transformed itself into different dialects and different accents.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks very much, Jaffer.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. This has been Lee Ballard and Jaffer Sharief for FloridaLinguistics.com. Please visit the website for more information on linguistics generally and on our studies at the University of Florida. Thanks so much for listening, and see you again soon.
Florida Linguistics.